Hello and welcome to the Stay Healthy Experience. I'm Robert Ferguson, and today we are going to talk about insulin. How much do you understand or know about insulin? We're also going to jump into type 1 and type 2 diabetes. We're going to share information on how you can reverse it. That means no longer will you be a type 2 diabetic. We're then going to jump into a little confusion around what foods to eat for diabetics and what foods are okay to eat. So we're going to talk about the glycemic index. So you don't want to miss that. And I am going to kind of go to a whole nother level and talk about this thing called B12 deficiency. So we're going to talk about vitamin B12. This is information that may pertain to you. It definitely is something that every person who wants to be a vegan wants to know about. And there may be some exciting things that follow that, but let's get this party started. Joining me in studio, as always, is Miss Barbara Chris.
Yes.
BK.
Did you forget my name?
I almost did. I wanted to go like BK, and then I didn't, but I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to talk about BK for Burger King.
Always.
All right.
That's right.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So today is good. We're going to have a really good show.
Yes.
I'm very excited to get the ball rolling and talk about something called vitamin B12.
Oh.
Okay, so vitamin B12, why I'm bringing it up is because it's something that many people are finding themselves deficient of. And so I'm going to read through some of the symptoms for people who may be deficient with B12. Okay, vitamin B12.
Right.
Okay, if you're experiencing loss of muscle, that may be a sign that you're deficient with B12. If you're walking around feeling fatigued, how many people do we know that are walking around feeling fatigued?
Just about everybody, it seems like, especially this time of year, right?
So you may be deficient with vitamin B12.
Yeah.
People who are forgetful, and they're blaming it on their age. I mean, how many people do you know that are complaining all the time about how they're starting to forget things?
I mean, I am. Really?
No, I mean, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, the other day, I literally got up and I knew I was going to the store. I was very clear on why I was going to the store. I get to the store.
And
I forgot what I came to get. And I remember being really focused. And then I started walking back to my car and I realized what I was missing. And it was vitamin B12.
No way. That is funny.
And CoQ10, which also helps with memory.
Yeah.
So I forgot.
It could just be that you're juggling a lot of things on your plate too, though, right?
Well, it could be.
Yeah.
But, for people who are forgetful or they're finding that that's now a big part of their behavior, it could be because they're lacking vitamin B12.
Okay, gotcha.
Pins and needles. Basically, too little oxygen in the red blood cells. There's a lot of people who are complaining, like maybe they sit on their leg a little bit, and they feel like they get these pins and needles.
Right.
Or maybe they're referring to fibromyalgia or some other condition that has that as a symptom. That could be that they're lacking B12. Pale skin, dizziness. So let's say you find yourself, you get up a little bit too quick, and you find that you're a little dizzy. You may be thinking, I think I'm hungry, or my blood sugar levels are low.
Right.
Could be that.
Yeah.
But it could be the fact that you're low on your B12. Anxiety and depression, Barbara.
Jeez.
How many people do we know that are dealing with that?
Like right now, everybody.
Changes in the tongue, like soreness. Like, for instance, if you have someone who's complaining about soreness around the back of their tongue or the side of their tongue, that could be a lack of B12. Vision changes, like the blurriness could also be a sign that you're deficient with B12. And then weight loss. If you're deficient with B12, you could be losing weight. So if the weight loss is coming out of nowhere, it could be that. Many people feel like they're just lacking energy. Are the ones that I notice that are deficient with B12.
Right.
And the best part is you can go to your doctor, you can get it checked. So you can find out exactly. One of the things that I find the most interesting about vitamin B12, because once in my life I was a vegan, and I learned a lot about vitamin B12.
Right.
because people are always saying if you want to get vitamin B12, you need to eat more meat.
Right. So you were vegan for quite a while
Yeah,
too, right?
like 10 years vegan, in the field for much longer than that, leaning towards more of a vegetarian life. But I know the importance of eating a variety of food. And when I created the multivitamin that I've shared with you,
Right.
I made sure that it had the right amount of vitamin B12 in it.
Oh, nice.
So people can go to our website, our store, and learn more about that vitamin.
Right.
Because I believe everyone would benefit from supplementing their nutrition with vitamin B12. So like if you went to the gym
Yeah.
and you notice that you're not as strong, right? Let's say, like on a lat pull down, how much are you pulling down?
Oh, well, it depends. I could pull down
You could lie.
50 pounds.
Okay. I bet that's more than 50
110.
pounds. Okay. And then you go and you went to lift and you notice that you're nowhere near that strength, right? Then that could be a sign that you're deficient with vitamin B12. Again, I believe everyone would benefit from it.
Yeah.
What most people don't know, and it was surprising to me, when I started looking at vitamin B12, I was assuming that animals, since everyone's saying to eat animals, they create it. It's just part of who they are.
Oh, what'd you find?
Well, vitamin B12 is not, it's you find vitamin B12 naturally
Right.
in the water. Because vitamin B12 is the outcome of bacteria. So vitamin B12 occurs naturally before we came in and started, revolutionizing everything.
Right.
Vitamin B12, if you went and drank water that was not touched and it was fit for human consumption,
Right.
you would get vitamin B12. If you were growing your own food and the vitamin B12 is part of the soil,
Right.
then in the food that you grow, you would be eating it and be getting plenty
Right. Oh, so
of vitamin B12.
You'd accumulate it that way.
Right. The sad part is that as a result of all of the processing and the fact that we don't have water naturally and we process the water as well,
Right.
vitamin B12 isn't there. But many foods supplement with vitamin B12.
Right.
You can go get shots, vitamin
Yes.
B12. And vitamin B12 now, yes, you can get it by eating animal because it's inside the tissue of the animal,
Right.
but they're even being supplemented.
Oh, my goodness.
So vitamin B12 is one thing that I recommend everybody take.
Supplement,
Take a multivitamin, and there's some vitamin B12s that are out there. In the content that we've provided, I list the exact ones to look for.
Oh, okay, good.
But vitamin B12 is something that I strongly recommend.
Yeah.
Now, share with us, I don't know what comes to mind with you, because being
Yeah.
around a lot of athletes,
Yep.
and they're not eating a lot of food, they're feeling a little weak in the fitness world. I'm sure you've met many fitness competitors
Yep.
that would get like B12 shots.
In fact, I actually did.
Okay.
I actually
Well, tell
did.
us all about it.
And it was during a prep, and yeah, I'm feeling exhausted, and I think the main thing I went there for was just that feeling of fatigue. And a lot of my friends had been going and getting the shots, the drip, the IV drip, that B12 is part of that. And I have to say, it was amazing.
You felt the difference after getting it?
I did.
Like immediately?
I don't want to say immediately, but definitely the next day, and maybe the next day after that, where I actually did a workout and felt that I was just rejuvenated. So it was helpful, but I didn't make it a routine thing. But I just wanted to give it a try because, just like you said, it's a popular thing to do.
And I can't stress it enough that
Yeah.
people want to look and make sure their multivitamin has it.
Yeah.
If not, look at other alternatives. We know through stats that over 90% of Americans, or people that live in North America, are not getting an adequate amount of B12.
What's that percent?
Like over 90%.
That's high.
I believe I read 96%.
Dang.
And we're not talking about a lot. We're looking at like 2 micrograms
Okay.
of B12 like a day.
Right.
And if you're eating a variety of food, like I've never experienced being deficient in vitamin B12. And I think a lot of it is because I eat a variety of food.
Yeah.
And I do take my multivitamin that I created. Maybe that's why. But it's something that I strongly recommend they look into it. Another thing that I learned recently as I've been looking at gut bacteria, right?
Yeah.
They now believe that our healthy gut bacteria will create vitamin B12.
Oh,
right?
Nice. Yeah.
So vitamin B12. So again, it's going back to gut bacteria because that's where it gets produced, and then through the small intestine, it gets released into the bloodstream.
Oh, it's all full circle, right?
It's all full circle.
Jeez.
So it goes back to, like, are you eating a variety of food?
Right.
Don't get in the habit of just eating one type of food all the time.
Right.
And many people, when they're dieting, that's what they want to do. But vitamin B12 is your friend.
So that's why you're asking also about my dad with respect to, is he supplementing with B12 because of some of the medication that he's taken in the past and how it could have potentially disrupted his microbiome. Right?
Correct. And they know that with metformin, which we talked about in the last episode, metformin is one of the side effects is that you become deficient with vitamin B12. Which goes back to creating that disturbance in your microbiome and your gut bacteria that puts you in a position where you're not able to produce the vitamin B12 that can then get released into, your bloodstream.
It's just, wow.
So vitamin B12 is your friend.
It's definitely our friend. See, B. I got the B.
There you go. So when we say BK, we're now referring to
that's right.
vitamin B.
That's awesome.
So there you have it, everybody. So if you
Boom.
want to know a little bit more about vitamin B12, read the information that we have provided in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and like, right? Because we want to get the word out so we can educate people.
Heck yeah.
Okay. So it's time to move on, Barbara.
Let's go.
Diabetes
Yeah.
has grown, it's at an all-time high. And there are no signs that type 2 diabetics, we're going to see a fewer people getting it. We know that there's close to 100 million people that are pre-diabetic right now walking around North America.
Yes.
We know that there's nearly 40 million people that are living with type 2 diabetes. Now, when you look at diabetes, as you break it down, you have type 1 and you have type 2.
Right.
Somewhere around 95% of the population, when we're talking about diabetes, are type 2.
Yes.
And there's that small group that are type 1. So you and I were talking about, and I was like, you know what? Let's educate people both on type 1, type 2, but in order to do that, they must understand this thing called insulin.
Yes.
Because if you were type 1, without insulin, what would happen?
Back then, before we had insulin, they'd die. It was a death sentence.
A lot of people died.
Yeah.
So tell us about it. Like, what did you discover as you were kind of looking at some of the research and the history around insulin, as well as how it relates to type 1 diabetics?
And it's pretty interesting. And 100 years ago, right? 1921 was where I found they successfully it was a surgeon, as a young guy, Frederick Banting and Charles Best. And they, in 1921, were able to successfully, extract insulin from a dog. And what they were able to do with that is then they were able to treat another dog, a dog that had symptoms or diabetes. And they treated him successfully. And so that was in 1921. So it's not, yes, it's 100 years ago, but it's really not that long ago where if you were diagnosed with diabetes, that was a death sentence. That was it. You'd weeks, maybe months to live.
It was over.
And so from being able to extract the insulin from the pancreas of a dog, they were able to then take it a step further and then get it from cattle and then use it to treat. The first patient was a 14-year-old boy, and they were able to successfully treat him. And I think that they said that he lived for another 13, 14 years, which was unheard of at that time, to live that long. And but I think that's the interesting thing is that not too long ago, there was just nothing that you could do. If you had diabetes, that was it.
Yeah, if you were type 1, meaning your body didn't produce insulin.
Right, yes, right.
Then it was a death sentence.
Right.
So let's share with people where this discovery took place.
Canada.
So Canadians, I know, are very proud of the work Banting did. There are some people who believe that Banting, even though they won the Nobel Peace Prize,
they did.
that they are not the real, they shouldn't get the credit for discovering this.
I saw some of that in the research. There's a little bit of like kind of bantering about who really gets credit for discovering it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, their names go down in history.
Yeah.
And since we have the insulin, right, that now can be injected, which is a good thing.
Right.
Okay. And for those who are new to this understanding, type 1, when you're a type 1 diabetic,
Yeah.
your body is not producing insulin. So now we have insulin that can help you live and thrive and live a long, productive life.
Yes.
So insulin is not a bad thing.
Right.
It's a storage hormone, but it's looked at as a negative because people who aren't type 1, they can produce insulin.
Right.
And they get to a place in their life where they kind of burn out those beta cells.
Yes.
And their body's not responding to the insulin that they're secreting.
Right.
And they could get to a place where now they have to inject insulin to get the same job done.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I just, in looking into it and the different, or not only the difference between the type 1 and type 2, but just the progression of it too. Even when we go back to insulin, just how much it's progressed over those years, over the past 100 years. And, I think it was 1978 was the first time that they were able to create the synthetic, human insulin.
Okay.
Because before that,
now, was that Eli Lilly? Are they the ones responsible for that?
I'm not sure, but it was in 1978. And before that, because I guess people were still having, or some people were potentially having allergic reactions to, the insulin that was derived from cattle. And so when able to do it with, synthetically, I think, and they actually used E. coli as a bacteria, which is interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was 1978. That's not that long ago.
No.
And I think when I think about it, being a little girl, like in elementary school, I remember if there were kids in class that were diabetic, it was like a big deal that we all had to know that. It's kind of interesting,
And now we're at a place where they have little pumps
that
are just attached to them. And they don't even got to think about it.
Right. Yeah, it's come a long way, definitely. In fact, one of my clients, that she wears diabetic or a insulin pump.
And she's type 1.
She's type 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, how has your work with her gone?
Oh.
Like, has the Diet for Your Life method worked just perfectly for her?
It's
Have you made any adjustments?
Well, it's worked great for her. The short answer is it worked great for her. We did have to adjust how much and when she was, taking in her fast carbs. But otherwise, in getting her adequate amount of protein, getting her to eat throughout the day, regularly throughout the day, and watching her portions, she's done great. She's dropped weight. She's dropped body fat. She's using less of her insulin. In fact, she was when I was telling you that before working with me at night, her alarm would go off, her low blood sugar alarm.
Because it was too low.
Right. That hasn't been happening as often, and some nights not at all. And so her husband is thankful for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so she's loving it. In fact, we just renewed to keep her going another 4 weeks because she's loving it, and she actually knows now how to eat for her. Whereas before, she always felt like she was guessing, well, should I do this? Well, so-and-so is doing this. Maybe I can try that. And it was just hurting her. She said her blood sugar levels were all over the place and feeling horrible. And now we're focusing on her and taking care of her, and she's so happy.
So there you go, you guys.
Yeah.
So type 1 diabetic, type 2 diabetic. Have you heard about the upcoming type 3 diabetic?
You've mentioned it, yes. Yes.
Well, they're playing with the idea that a type 3 diabetic would be someone with Alzheimer's.
Yes, that's right.
And then with Alzheimer's, they now know conclusively that there is a connection between either becoming someone who has Alzheimer's or improving your Alzheimer's, the relationship with gut bacteria.
Wow.
So when people say, I feel it in my gut, you do feel it in your gut.
Evidently, yeah.
So we have the type 1, we get it. Then we have the type 2. Again, the numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
You and I both are coaching people who are type 1 and type 2.
Yes.
And we're getting amazing outcomes. So when it comes to a type 1 and a type 2, have you noticed, have any of your clients said, wow, I didn't think I would ever eat that again?
100%. 100% of the time. hands down.
Okay, well, like give us an example and then I'll give an example. Let's banter back and forth.
I think one of the first things that I've heard is someone they love cereal and they want cereal, or they want just a sandwich, and they've been told they can't have it, and they're never going to be able to have it. And when we sit down and we talk about how to, plan their day with whether it's, their meals and how to portion them out, how to combine the foods that they actually love to eat, they're actually kind of like scared, I guess, at first, because they've been programmed to think that I can never have this bread ever.
Right.
And so they're a little leery and kind of skeptical of it. And when they realize after, even just a few days of doing it, their mind's blown. They can't believe it. And like I said, like actually with the client that I was talking about earlier, she's, just another example of the fact that she's so happy that now she knows how to eat that, but make it work for her.
Right.
And not feel like she's being pulled in a million different directions by what so-and-so was telling her, things like that. But anyway, for sure. Like, what about you? What about some of your clients? What do they say?
Well, as soon as you said cereal, the first person I was thinking of as a type 1 diabetic is one of the Diet Free Life coaches, Don.
Uh-huh.
You know Don?
Don?
Yeah. Don in Arkansas.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Now, is her name Don? Or am I like losing my mind? I'm a B12.
Dana. I'm like, who is Dawn?
See, I am missing out on
you need B12.
I need B12. So
I'm like, who is Dawn?
Dana, who's a Diet Free Life coach. I think one of her first clients was her husband.
Yeah.
And he's a type 1 diabetic. And I remember talking to her on the phone, and he had seen her go through the program. So she was a client first, then became a coach, and then started teaching him. And then part of her teaching with him was cereal, got them all excited.
Yes.
Because he thought it was bad to eat cereal. White potatoes.
Yeah.
And they're in Arkansas. So they're eating a whole bunch of stuff that most people who are overly concerned about their nutrition believe you can't eat those foods anymore.
Right.
And they're not healthful for you.
Yeah.
But in reality, they are. And he went on to lose 40 pounds. There is no food that's forbidden for him because, as you said, he knows how to eat foods in combinations, combining foods so that it doesn't have his blood sugar level spiking too high. And he's eaten frequently enough that they're not dropping too low.
Yes.
Now, we give Canada the credit for, insulin, but the Canadians also created something else for diabetics. You want to take a guess? Drum roll.
I'm not going to. No, I'll let you have it.
They created the Glycemic Index.
Oh.
So the Glycemic Index came about in 1981.
See, again, not
right?
that long ago.
And for those who are new to the Glycemic Index, it's a index, or not an index, that's for number.
Yeah.
It's a list of all carbohydrate foods. And it's all based on 50 grams of carbs, which I know you know this, but I'm saying this for the viewers.
Yes.
And they looked at glucose, pure sugar, and gave it the number 100. And if a food was like a white potato was 95, then that's considered high. So diabetics would avoid a white potato. They would also avoid white bread. They would also avoid white rice because the number was higher.
Right.
The big problem with the glycemic index, and this for everybody to finally get this, is that it's based on consuming a single food and is not based on what you eat with the food.
Yes.
So, amen. Should I say that one more time?
Say it one more time.
Okay.
Break it down.
The glycemic index is based on carbohydrates, and the goal was to educate diabetics so they had an idea what foods they to avoid. Right? So if a white potato is given a number 95, they're like, oh, that's going to cause your blood sugar levels to go up.
Yes.
Glucose is 100, that's 95. Stay away from it.
Yeah.
And it's based on a single food, and it's based on 50 grams of carbs at a single time. And the reason why I'm stressing single is because when you add something to the food, and there's so many scientific studies around this, like if you eat that carbohydrate with protein. The
Right.
protein, steak, fish, chicken, tofu, and the list goes on and on, will slow down how fast the carb becomes sugar in the blood.
Right.
When you eat that white potato with broccoli, the fiber in the broccoli and the protein is going to also help slow down how fast the carb becomes sugar in the blood. And one of the best examples of this is when you look at the glycemic index and you see a white potato is given a number 95.
Right.
And that can change based on how ripe or unripe the potato is.
Okay.
Right? So what potato are we talking about? And that's where a lot of people get confused. And I'll give you an example with banana.
Yeah.
But with the potato is given a number 95.
Right.
And potato chips that are processed that come from the potato are given a number 55. So based on the glycemic index, I would be better off to consume the potato chips than to consume the potato
Right.
that God made possible that I dig right out of the ground and eat it.
Yep.
There's a problem.
Yes.
So then with our clients, what we do is we say, hey,
Yeah.
we know you're eating it with protein, so you're good. But if you added some butter,
Yeah.
then you would see the glycemic impact similar to eating the potato chips, because chips are not pure carbs. They have fat or oil woven into it,
Right.
which slows down how fast the chip becomes sugar in the blood.
Yes.
Now, I'm speaking this slow
Yeah.
because I'm thinking about the people who are watching this for the first time,
Yeah.
watching and hearing it. So it's not that Barbara is not smart.
Slow it down for me.
I'm slowing it down.
Yes.
So then I brought, okay, so that being said,
Yeah.
did that surprise you? And I'm sure you educate your clients on stuff like this.
Oh, I have to tell you, whether it's my clients or, in fact, remember I shared with you just recently, I sat down with my mom and dad and went over the methodology with them. That is probably one of the favorite things that they like one of the favorite things from learning the methodology, that they're so enlightened by that. My clients, hands down, they love that when we go over that together. And it's like this epiphany. They're like, oh, like the clouds parted and the sun is now shining on them. They realize like, oh, okay, well, wow, that makes sense. I wish I would have known that
It makes
a year ago or whatever, you know?
Well, is what's also surprising. Like, oftentimes I'm in a room with a bunch of physicians, and I'm thinking of these 3 physicians I was with in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was walking them through the methodology, and I showed them some pancakes, and I was giving them examples of fat-burning meals, like how our clients are able to eat certain foods, combining the foods a certain way, and losing weight, improving blood glucose, all of those things, right? And when I brought up the pancakes, this one physician, I mean, he almost fell over. He stopped everything. He was like, no, my patients cannot eat that.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Because he didn't understand the method. He was using an old doctrine, the tradition of avoiding pancakes, avoiding white potatoes, avoiding certain foods, because that's the norm in the diabetic world.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas he wasn't even listening. And his son was a type 1 diabetic. Actually, no, he's a type 2 diabetic.
Okay.
And I said, hey, look, why don't we take a break? It's time for lunch. And I'll go get food for everybody. And I'm going to bring back fat-burning meals. And your son is going to check his glucose an hour, 2 hours after, and we're going to see how this meal, if it negatively affects his blood glucose.
Oh, wow.
Because this is what we do with our clients. When they have disbelief, I'll say, you know what? You're the best client because you're monitoring your glucose, and you will know as you eat these meals, you will know when you wake up tomorrow if what we're saying is real.
Exactly.
So we did that. I went to Wendy's because that was the nearest restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And I came back with Wendy's like food, and I had various options. And he ate the meal. Everybody ate it. And they were in disbelief. They're like, wait a minute, this is a weight loss nutrition guy.
Like,
you're bringing us like Wendy's?
Wendy's.
They ate it. And then I explained the method and the science that supported what I was saying.
Yeah.
And his blood glucose was good. The rest of that evening, I had a great time, and we ended up doing some work together.
That's a great story.
And it's a true story.
Wow.
You know, the proof is in the pudding,
For sure.
as they say.
Yeah.
But it's the glycemic index that brings us together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the glycemic index that also separates us and keeps certain key influencers apart. And what I mean by that is that the American Medical Association does not look at the glycemic index as science. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Do you want to take a guess on why? Like why they don't see it as science? And you're a scientist.
I know.
Right?
I don't have a good answer for
So
that.
as I share this, it'll make total sense.
Yeah.
Science, right, is proven, right? You have certain things in place. You can predict the outcome based on the fact that you're dealing with
That's
science.
true. That's
right?
true.
So a lot of mathematics, chemistry,
Models.
and you get it.
Right.
Remember when I said the white potato is given a number 95? If the white potato was more ripe than the other potato, then it would be like 98.
Oh, gotcha.
And when you look at bananas, you see this in a big way, right? So you
Right.
have bananas. When a banana is closer to green, it will be higher in starch and lower in sugar. When the banana starts to spot and is brown and it starts getting darker, when you look at it, it's higher in sugar and lower in starch.
Okay.
And sugar and starch at the end of the day are the same in the blood, but they process and break down totally at a different rates.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what banana? They would have to take every possible banana all over the world. And there's a lot of varieties of bananas.
Right.
They would have to look at the green one, the one that's like a little bit yellow, like all the way down to one with all the spots. And they would have to all sync up for them to say a banana is given the glycemic index number of 70.
So there's too much variability then. That's it. Okay, so that makes sense
and
then.
that's the problem. So it'll never be that, but yet a lot of people refer to it. Like if you watch Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, oftentimes the science that they bring up when they're talking about their program is the glycemic index.
Yeah, and it's just an incomplete picture.
It's incomplete.
Right.
However, with anything that's approaching science or things in the past, with the Diet-Free Life method, we looked at the glycemic index, then we looked at the glycemic load,
Right.
and then we came up with a way to classify or categorize foods so that it'd be easy for your clients, my clients, and everyone else to combine food without even having to think about it to get this outcome that works for everybody no matter where they're at.
Right. Like just knowing those
Boom.
that's awesome. And just knowing those food categories, right? Especially for each person. They know of the foods that they like because everybody's different. Like I might like chicken, right?
Well, we know you like chicken.
I like chicken. But not everybody does. But if you know what kind of protein sources that you like or my clients like, they make that work for them. And they understand, okay, this is what I have to have in this meal. This is how much I need to have in this meal. And then I'm good. And it just, it's so easy. Once they realize and they get it, how easy it is, I hear this all the time too, that they wish that they would have learned this ages ago.
And it's so simple.
And it really is.
You know, it's like, I know you've heard this story, but I'll never forget when we took, 60 first graders. And in 45 minutes, we gave them a pass or fail after we taught them how to make a fat-burning meal, how to combine the foods. Inside of 45 minutes, all 60 kids, first graders, scored pass.
That's awesome.
All
of them.
Then we took the teachers. Less than 50% of the teachers passed.
Yep.
Why do you think that is?
They just overcomplicated it.
Yes.
Totally. They start overthinking and overanalyzing. Well, what about this and what about that, and all that extra noise.
All that past and background.
For sure. And then they bring that in, and they just can't answer a really simple question.
But, it's funny when you were just saying that. I remember when I used to train coaches like early on. I used to always share with them. I said, I want you to go with this visual. And the visual is that when your client walks in, or the prospect who you want to be a client, I want you to imagine they have a lot of bags on their back. Baggage. And in one bag is Atkins diet. In another bag is Weight Watchers. In another bag, it's Jenny Craig. and another bag is keto diet.
Yes.
They bring in a lot of baggage. And the more mature they are, I would have the coaches visualize there's more bags.
That's a great tool. I have some clients with a ton of baggage like that, for sure.
And what you have to do is you got to slowly, remove the bags, go inside the bags, and with their newfound understanding, help them break through or have clarity on what's real about that and what's not real.
Yes. I heard this, I read this quote. It talked about how, and I really, it resonated with me. It said, for my goal is to educate and empower versus convince. And what was the other? It was a C word, convince and, darn it. But basically you get what I'm saying, like to try to convince and pull someone. What we're doing is we're educating and empowering them in this methodology. And I think it's everything. I'll get that other C word. I can't remember what it was.
Well, you remember Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
Right. So Harriet Tubman, I talk about her a lot, and she taught me a lesson because she was quoted once for saying, if I could have convinced more slaves that they were slaves, I could have freed thousands more. It's so profound when you think about that. And I know you get it, but I'm going to say it one more time. She says, if I could have convinced. So the first lesson in all of that is that I'm not in the business of trying to convince you.
That's right.
I'm not there because I know it ain't going to work.
Right.
So she said, if I could have convinced more people that they were slaves, I could have freed thousands more. So she was going into these homes late at night, whispering, talking about freedom.
Right.
And these people, like, how do you know what freedom is?
Yeah.
If you've never experienced it.
Right. They didn't know any different. Right.
I mean, you may not like how it felt to get whipped or being out there doing the cotton. There's got to be something different, but where's your reference for freedom?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
Where is your reference? And so that's challenging. But I also know that as we work with people, and there's people who are watching us have this conversation, they know that it's got to be better than what they've experienced.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so if they open up and let us show them the way, they can have freedom.
Absolutely. That's great. No, that's absolutely it.
And so you're Moses.
I'm Moses.
Because that's what they called her.
That's right.
You're freeing people.
That's right. I'm BK. I'm Burger King.
You're giving people an opportunity to experience freedom with food.
It's so powerful. It really is. It's such I'm so grateful for that position, or to be in that position. And when I see people, when they, like I said, it's like they get this epiphany, and this weight taken off their shoulder, they're seeing results. They're experiencing that freedom with food, and a more I say healthier relationship with food, that it's not, if you eat this, you're going to be crucified if you eat it. It's not about that. And just those minor tweaks along the way, those minor changes, mindset, all that. It's really neat to see when people kind of transform that way.
Well, there's always a story connected to a lot of the words that we use regularly. So for instance, we talk about freedom with food. And if you've noticed, many of your clients probably have volunteered that word, freedom.
Absolutely.
And I can remember the first time one of our clients opened my eyes to the word freedom as it relates to food. And it was before I did my very first infomercial, or maybe it was around the time I was writing the very first book. I would ask clients, hey, so what do you like most about Diet-Free Life? Like what is different with Diet-Free Life than other things?
Yeah.
And it was this one lady, and I apologize, I can't remember her name, but she was really smart. She was an entrepreneur. She ended up getting married. She decided to leave that space. And they had a daughter, and the husband was an entrepreneur, so he was working mostly. And she was a stay-at-home mom. But she's still this really smart, intelligent lady.
Yes.
And I remember one day I had asked her, and she looked at me, Robert. She goes, Robert, it's freedom. It's freedom with food. like this program is about freedom. It's not about restriction and deprivation.
Right.
And when she first said it, I remember going, what is she talking about? Right? Because it wasn't, it resonated, but it wasn't what I wanted to hear.
Oh.
You know, it's kind of like when I was told by this infomercial company, they go, Robert, find out what your clients like most about you.
Uh-huh.
And the majority of the time it would be, you're motivating, Robert.
Yeah.
I always leave lifted.
Yeah.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
What did you want to hear?
I wanted them to say, wow, you're just so knowledgeable about nutrition.
Oh.
Man, you really like know this stuff. Like, I wanted them to focus on that.
Yeah.
So when they were talking about motivation and inspiring them, that is not what I wanted to hear, Barbara.
You're like, damn it.
Yeah, that was not it. But fast forward, I remember years later going, they're right.
Yeah.
A big part of who I am is a natural ability to motivate people, to get
For
them
sure.
to do it.
Yeah.
And same with this lady. She was 100% on point. The difference between what we do with people and all the other programs out there,
Yeah.
there's one word: freedom.
Freedom. Yeah.
Freedom. And, you know, last point I'll make on this before we move on is I'll never forget having Diet Free Life on my shirt when I would go to like Kinko's or FedEx or, you know, go different places.
Right.
And I had my company name on it. Mm-hmm. And I would walk in, and for years people would go, so what does that mean? And I would have to explain it.
Yeah.
And then I remember the moment when people would see it and they go, hey, how can I get some of that?
Really?
It was like, we stayed the course, and eventually that's what people wanted. They wanted, they got it. They understood it as soon as they saw it.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting because actually today I met with one of the client sessions I had today. She just completed her first 7 days. And she was explaining to me, she's feeling great. She's sticking to the plan, but she was telling me that she had a chat with her mom on the phone the other day. And her mom was asking her, so how is it all going? And she said, compared to all the other diets I've done in the past, because she's one that has a lot of baggage, she's like, I don't feel like that at all. I don't feel like I'm restricted at all. And she's doing great. Now, again, it's her first 7 days, but she said her energy levels are good.
Nice.
We're picking up exercise this coming week. We're starting to layer that onto her program. And she's super excited about it. She loves the fact that, she's one who likes her cereal in the morning. And just little tweaks of what she can have with her cereal just made all the difference for her. It was just something that simple.
All the difference.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday I was being interviewed by this radio host. It was an hour-long interview.
Oh, wow.
And the lady was so fascinated with Diet Free Life. I mean, like, just so fascinated. And where we ended up spending most of our time was in an area that had her rethinking everything.
Wow.
Right? Because we were talking about, you know, people like African Americans, Latinos, disproportionately dying as a result of COVID-19.
Okay.
And so she wanted me to like share information on why I believe that was the case. What are some of the things that a lot of these communities are dealing with? And I went right to under-resourced communities where people have financial challenges. And in her mind, the white rice would be wrong, right? Because brown rice, organic, wild rice would be ideal.
I see.
And as we started talking and I was explaining, she was like, I'm starting to rethink everything. And then what made her rethink it is I said, we go to people and we do this one thing that most people that you know, I'm talking to her, can't do. And she was like, well, what's that? And I said, I don't care if they are a registered dietitian in Beverly Hills. I don't care like what school they went to, how much training they have, how long they've been doing it. And not all, so I'm not blanking all people.
Yeah.
Because we're not the only ones who get this. But what we do that no one else does. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I think so.
All right, say it.
We meet people where they are.
Wow, look at Barbara.
Boom.
Yeah. We meet people, and I said, that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, so what are, like, give me an example of a meal that you eat. And she goes, salmon, Brussels sprouts, asparagus. I said, do you realize that there's a lot of people in their 20s, their 30s, their whole life, they've never eaten salmon.
Yep.
And they don't even know what asparagus looks like.
Yeah.
I said, so when you meet someone where they are, you are putting on their shoes and you're looking at life from their eyes. Right? So that empathy and compassion now is part of everything.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can do that.
Yes.
And so if they're going to eat a Twinkie because they like them, you're not going to get them to stop eating Twinkies.
Exactly.
So show them how to eat Twinkies in the healthiest way.
Show them how to eat it.
Boom.
I mean, yeah, that is absolutely right on. And it's something that I've seen as a coach now, how much food judgment's out there, food shaming is out there. It really is.
Oh,
And
it's horrible.
yeah, and I get that. Like when I come across whether they're influencers or what, and they could be highly educated, like you said, but there's some foods that they might be, touting that there's people, in the States, all over the world, really, that are like, what the hell is that? They don't even know what that is. It doesn't make sense to them. And so, meeting people where they are is everything. And when you say empathy, it's like, oh yes, empathy for whatever the situation that they're in, but also empathy for what they like to eat.
Right. Because, as I was talking to this lady,
Yeah.
she was so, and it made me feel good because I hadn't done an interview in a while. And then she was so intrigued. She goes, okay, what was the moment? When was your light bulb moment, Robert? When you realized you want to meet people where they are? And I said, I remember it like it was yesterday. Because when I first started doing this, right? So in 1995, when I was getting my feet wet in the world of nutrition and weight loss, I was a food Nazi. So I had a belief that if it's white, it ain't right.
It ain't right.
So don't add any white salt. Stay away from white flour.
Yep.
Don't eat white rice.
Ooh.
Stay away from the pasta. So I was like a lot of people today are.
Oh, for sure. That's really common.
And so I had this client. She was from the Philippines.
Uh-oh.
She hadn't been here in the States long, and she had heard about my program, so she came. She paid, and she was leaving, and one of my buddies was there, and he's an executive chef. And she turned around and she says, Robert, quick question. Drum roll. The quick question was, so no white rice for the first 21 days. And I said, you got it. No white rice. And she left. Never saw her again.
She's like, see ya.
And I'll never forget Chef Eric. He goes, she's never coming back. I go, why would you say that? And he said, you just removed something from her where she has a cultural relationship with, and you said, don't eat that.
It's a staple.
She's been eating white rice, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yes.
And I've been in the Philippines, and that's what I saw.
know.
They eat white rice all the time.
Yes.
And that's when I realized that we must meet people where they are.
That's awesome.
And then when you start digging and not just following the herd, you find out that people who live the longest in this world, they eat white rice.
Yeah.
They've never seen brown rice. It's something about North America where we are just caught up in whole wheat, brown rice,
Right.
whole wheat pasta. Like the more brown it is, the better.
Yeah.
And the reality is that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
But in America or North America, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And so in my house, we eat white rice. That's the preferred food.
Yeah. Jasmine rice. Yum.
I like jasmine, and I like brown rice.
I do too.
I like, and I used to eat wild rice. So it's more of like in our house, it's not about a food being bad or good. It's about how much does it taste good.
Yeah. Like your preference, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I get that comment quite a bit for someone who's just trying to figure things out with respect to, should I have white rice? Should I have brown? And they like both. And I'll tell them, like, if you like both, switch it up. Just whatever you choose. Just keep it in the right portion and keep it in the right combination, and you're good. Don't worry about whether it's brown or white. Whatever you're going to eat and actually stick to is what's more important.
And it works.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. So anyway, Barbara.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I want to talk about in today's show.
Oh, what's that?
I want to talk about the cray-cray around losing weight.
The cray-cray.
The cray-cray.
There is cray-cray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk
about it. The cray-cray
about
about losing weight.
Okay.
That means some of the weirdest, craziest stories I have heard from people who they've done it to lose the weight.
Yes.
So I'll kick off.
Okay.
And we can go back and forth.
All right.
Now, as we share this, everyone who's listening in, we're not sharing this for you to go do it.
Right.
I would not recommend you do what we're about to share.
That's right.
Okay. I once had a client who was a dancer, and she was a dancer for many years, like ballet, like New York, like high level performer. Mm-hmm. And she ended up doing this program and was very happy with it.
Okay.
And one day we were talking. Oh no, it was when I first met her. I said, have you ever dieted, and what are some of your diets? You know how we do that in the interview process.
Yep.
And she shared some crazy things that dancers do. And one of them was, she says, well, the one that worked best for me is that she would get orange juice and cotton balls. So she would take the cotton ball and she would, wet it with the orange juice, and then she would put it in her mouth and use the orange juice to down the cotton ball.
Oh.
It would give her a sense of fullness.
Fullness, yeah.
And that's what she would do to lose the weight.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, did you ever have any
obstruction?
Yeah,
God.
Any problems? She says, yeah, I was doing it a lot, and I had to go and get a few procedures done.
I was going to say probably some surgery to.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's crazy.
And trust me, there's some dancers going, yep.
Cotton balls.
Cotton balls.
Wow.
So you want to share one?
I've got, one, this is way before my coaching days. It was actually when I was in aerospace, and I remember this, our admin, so our team admin, she had some weight to lose, and she had been struggling for a while. And I noticed that she, maybe at some point, I just started noticing that she was losing weight. And she was always carrying this jug of this massive, Tupperware type jug of some juice concoction. And she was explaining to me what, at the time, she said, yeah, I got to lose weight. It's this 21 day or 28 day thing where you basically just drink you've probably heard of it. It's water, cayenne pepper.
The master cleanse.
Yeah, that. It was that. And that's all she did for basically 21, 28 days. And she lost weight, but I remember her being miserable, just miserable and looking like a walking, her eyes were sunken in. And then once she was done with
B12 deficiency.
That's right. And then once she was done with that, I remember at the time, like I said, this was way before coaching days. And we're just thinking, how is that good for you in any way, shape, or form? But she was so desperate to drop weight. And sure enough, though, she got down to whatever weight she was sort of happy with, feeling pretty good, and literally just put it all back on, maybe within a month or two, and then some. And then she was even more upset. But that was probably one of that I saw in person, because I've heard people doing that, but I actually saw her bring that jug, drink that gross concoction.
So now think of that look in her face, that paleness, B12 deficiency.
Yeah.
So think about the lack of variety of food that she's getting during that time, and the disruption that's taking place in her gut bacteria.
Oh.
Very sad.
Totally.
Not a good thing.
And low energy. I remember she would be dragging at work. Just, I mean, I laugh. It's not funny, but it was a sight to see.
And when you think about, there's people today that are still doing that. I mean, Beyonce made it very popular at one point. They said, or it was reported, allegedly, that she used the Master Cleanse to lose all that weight before she did Dreamgirls.
Oh, that
because she had to be really thin.
And that waist.
Yep. And so they're saying that that's what she did. So then all these people were jumping on board.
Hey.
And what I get from that which ties into like another one I hear about all the time.
Yeah.
Is, people taking laxatives
Oh, yeah.
and almost living on them, creating that disturbance, getting all that water inside of their stool, and just that's horrible.
Yeah.
To do that. But whether it's the cotton balls, whether it's a master cleanse, whether it's laxatives, whether it's just starving
I was
themselves.
gonna say starving.
They're doing it because they want to lose the weight.
For sure.
And it means a lot to them to lose the weight. So they will take drastic steps to get it done. Because I believe, and maybe you think differently, but when you're, downing cotton balls, you're at a place where you want it so bad. And you also know, because you're not crazy, and innately you know that this is not a good thing.
Absolutely.
But as my cousin once told me, he says, hey, let me lose the weight first, unhealthfully, and then I'll learn your program and get healthy.
It makes no damn sense. And I've heard that to some degree, that same type of mentality, and you're just like, you don't even hear yourself.
No.
It's like, you're crazy.
And they can't even hear the fact that you can still eat what you just ate and lose the weight.
Yeah. No,
it goes like what we do and teach people. It goes against almost everything. It's an uphill battle.
For sure.
And that's why but people, once they learn about it, they go, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
And all it is learning how to combine foods in a way, right proportion, that your body is in what we refer to as fat burning mode. It's really that simple.
It really is. It's just that simple. It really just comes down to that.
It comes down to that.
Just comes down to that.
Jack LaLanne, I'll never forget one of the first times I met him. We were talking about weight loss and losing weight, and he was asking me questions about what I did and how we did it. And he goes, "You're already rich." And I go, "I'm not sure what you're asking me. I mean, what you're saying, Jack."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, you're rich," and I was like, "No, I'm not rich." he goes, "Would you give me that arm for $1 million?" I said, "No."
No.
He goes, "So you're rich."
There you go.
And I was like, okay, I get what you're saying. He goes, and think about it. He goes, weight loss is easy. If you have a lot of hair, just cut the hair off and you'll be light on the scale. If you want to lose a quick 5-10 pounds, just take your arm off.
Cut a limb off.
Yeah, give up, a kidney,
Right.
There's a lot of ways to lose weight.
Yeah.
But if you want to get healthier
Yeah.
and you want to maximize all the things that come with this life that we get to live, then nutrition, how you eat, how your body is made up, the composition,
Yes.
activity, how you exercise, take care of yourself,
Rest.
how much sleep you're getting, how much water, all of that plays a huge role in being able to live your best life.
Yeah. Sure does.
So, do you have any more crazy stories you want to share?
No, I'm just still thinking of the damn cotton balls. That is crazy.
Well, I had this one client. She told me this story, which was absolutely crazy. She's a model, and she lived in New York, but they had to go to some island far away somewhere. And so she's over there, and she's feeling bloated. And they're getting ready to do the photo shoot the next day or two.
God.
So she calls this friend of hers who has some ideas on how to lose weight, I guess.
Oh,
and he says, well, go to the store and get this. She goes, there is no store.
Oh, God.
You gotta, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And he goes, this is what you're going to do. Drink a lot of water and get some garlic cloves. And you take the garlic clove, and you may need some help with this, but you're going to use the garlic as an enema.
Oh.
So you just stick it on up in there.
That visual.
And she did it.
Ugh.
She did it because she wanted to lose the weight. She wanted to be lean. She wanted to look leaner.
Just so desperate.
People are desperate. They will do whatever is necessary. And that's why when I see someone overweight or I see someone struggling with their diabetes,
Yeah.
even if they learn even if they watch this show and they hear us talking about it and then they do nothing, I get it.
Yeah.
It's the world we live in it's a tough one, man. And there's so much confusion. And it reminds me of that radio show, the lady I was talking to, the host, she says, so Robert, like, so many people are overweight, more now than ever. What do you think we can do to like fix it? And I said, I don't see us fixing it. And she was like, well, I didn't expect to hear that from you. I said, well, here's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge I think we're up against is that the uninformed, which is most people,
Right.
are influenced by the misinformed.
Yes.
And I said, think about 45 minutes ago when I was first talking to you. And now move forward how misinformed you were before we had the conversation.
Absolutely.
And she was like, we got to have you back on the show.
I know. She's like, that's great.
She said, we got to have you back on the show.
Yeah. You know, that ties into also when I hear people doing the cray-cray type diet things. And if they're parents, what's really mind-blowing is what they're doing with themselves. They would never subject their children to, right? So what does that say alone? That, oh, this is how I eat, but I would never put my kids through this. So then why is it good for you? And they don't.
But, and you know what?
You know?
They would be okay with their kids doing it because they would take drastic measures if they saw their kids battling, which a lot of kids are battling with their weight. But what most parents don't know is that kids do what they see and not necessarily what you tell them.
Right.
Right? So my kids, they just naturally eat fat-burning meals.
Yeah.
Like if you just watch them, they just naturally make fat-burning meals.
Cute.
They don't know any difference.
Yeah.
It would be odd if they had a meal with no slow-carb vegetables. You know, I mean, they love their fast carbs. It'd be odd if there was no fast carb.
Right.
You know, it'd be odd. You know, they also know how to make fat-burning meals that are vegan, where you don't have to have tofu or anything like that.
Great.
They just naturally got it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the way it is.
Just part of their DNA now.
It's just part of their DNA.
They're Fergusons, right?
Well, let's see if they can make it happen. One thing that I would like to share about weight loss, since we touched on kids, as we prepare to come to a close.
Yeah.
I once had a client. This lady, she lived in Calabasas, Westlake area.
Okay.
So the demographic, that location, people got money.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. She brought her daughter to me, and her daughter was, I think, 14, and she had some weight to lose. And the mom came in, and she was like, I just don't understand it. She goes, her dad works out, I work out, we eat extremely healthy. I said, so what's healthy? Give me an example. You know, chicken breasts, broccoli, you know, maybe a little bit of rice here and there. She goes, but we don't have candy in the house. She goes, I just don't understand why my daughter is having this weight issue. I mean, is it genetics? Is it, we're just lost. So we're coming to you for help.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking as I'm sharing and setting this up? Anything coming to mind, like any guessing you want to
about the daughter? She's probably stressed about food. I've seen her if they're controlling with food, and she's probably sneaking things. She could be sneaking food.
Well, this is what I told that lady. I said, when you go home today, when your daughter's not around, I want you to go in her room and look under her bed, look under her mattress. Now, if you find candy or certain things that you didn't expect her to be eating, then I want you to not judge her. Don't even say a word. Just you communicate with me.
Okay. And sure enough,
she couldn't do it. She did go home. She did see it. And the first thing she did was she went to her teenage daughter and called her out on it.
Oh.
And now you have created a judgment, food blaming, that now will have that daughter hide the food somewhere else.
Yep.
She will then eat at friends' homes, and she will just hide it. And that parent who is perfect with her eating is now playing a big role in her child growing up feeling that she needs to hide the food that she likes to eat.
Yeah, like that closet eater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the mom, because of her perceived judgment, is causing way more harm than good, even though in her heart she wants to help her daughter.
Yeah, her intentions are to help, but it's coming across as judgment and like crucifying her, basically.
And there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's
wow.
a lot of that. Like when we did the coach training.
Yeah.
We used to have these coach training sessions where I would become the client, and then you're the coach, and everybody would watch, and then we would make comments about how the interaction between the coach and the client. Mm-hmm. And so I had this one coach who was vegan, hardcore vegan, vegan, but he wants to be a coach. So you got to meet everybody where they are. Some people are going to eat chicken, they're going to eat steak, etc.
Yes.
So I want a role play so that people can see how this went down.
Okay.
Right. So you're the coach, and you're just going to ask me about like my eating habits, kind of like at the interview, for breakfast, lunch.
Yeah.
All right.
So hey, Robert. So let me know what kind of what do you like to eat for breakfast? What's your breakfast of choice?
Well, I begin every day with T-bone steak. I like to have steak with eggs, and that's kind of how I get my day started. I mean, I will have a little bit of coffee, and then but most days I'm eating steak and eggs.
No, and I'm the vegan.
You're the vegan coach.
She passed out.
So what happened was, on the outside, the vegan coach, you can see their face and their posture change.
Like this?
They were so judgmental.
Like that?
Yes. And this coach couldn't get past that, so he never became a coach.
Oh.
Because he couldn't get past that block that he had.
Right.
Because if you weren't eating the way he eats, then what you're doing is wrong.
Got it. So then I'm sure that potential client or whoever he might have talked to would just be like, geez, like,
yeah, they
feeling really bad.
People would pick up that energy, and they may not even understand why they don't want to work with this person, but they can feel that something's not gelling. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
We're not connected.
Right.
Right. Whereas when you can have freedom, and you're not judging, and you're open, and you're just asking, and they can feel that you're not judging them, then they're going to feel like I can work with this person.
Yeah. There's even times, just kind of going back to that kind of questioning of a prospective client, is just even sometimes that question alone, hey, what do you like to eat for breakfast? Oftentimes I can read their body language. If they're already looking uptight, that they're thinking, oh, is there a right or wrong answer? Because a lot of people think that there's a right and wrong answer. I'll even reassure them and say, look, this isn't right or wrong. This is just me getting to know you and kind of like what you like to eat. I have to really reassure them that. So I can imagine having the resting bitch face, really, like.
Well, I mean, and like when we do the onboarding as far as with a new client, we ask questions, and then we get to that one point where we say, okay, so when you are craving something and it's unhealthy,
right,
but you can't wait to eat it, what is it?
What is it?
Then they start to tell the truth.
Right.
Because most of the time people will tell you what they think you want to hear.
I mean, hands down, for sure.
And we're coaching their palate, and that's what it's all about. Yeah. So anyway, I had fun today.
Yeah, it was good. Lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about, and there's always more.
Sure.
But the call to action that I would give anyone who's type 2 diabetic, anyone who's type 1 diabetic, anyone who just wants to learn how to eat regular, everyday food, but eat it in the combinations we're talking about, to reach out to us. Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're always posting pictures of meals and snacks. It gives you ideas. And, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it, and share this.
Yeah.
Because what I'm telling people, Barbara, is that this show and the videos we post, like on YouTube, our goal is to get people informed so they don't fall prey to those who are misinformed.
Yep. Educate and empower.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, as always, we want to encourage all people to get healthy, be healthy,
and stay healthy.
Until the next one.
Boom.